Okay, our next ethical theory for your viewing pleasure is ethical relativism. And first of all, I notice there's a lot of confusion out there between the difference between ethical relativism, cultural relativism, and moral relativism. So I want to make the distinction between these three in particular, and then we'll talk about ethical relativism, which is the focus of our study. First of all, ethical relativism is prescriptive, and that's just a $20 word for it tells you how you ought to behave. Cultural relativism is descriptive. It's simply saying in different times, in different places, people act and behave in different ways. They have different values, different ideas of what's right and wrong. This led to moral relativism or situational ethics. And if you look on YouTube or other places and you hear people talk about ethical relativism, this is really what they're talking about. They're talking about moral relativism, which basically says there are no moral absolutes. Everyone can do what they want, when they want, however they want. But that's not what we're talking about. That actually gets more back into like a type of egoism if you really think about it. So what we're going to focus on is ethical relativism. And ethical relativism was developed as an ethical theory largely after the work of cultural anthropologists, especially anthropologists like Franz Boas and his great disciple Margaret Mead. Margaret Mead was famous for going out and doing fieldwork studies where she was a participant observer. She would actually go into different tribes and learn the language, live with the people, eat their food, and learn as much about them as she could by living with them. This was a huge contrast from how cultural anthropology had been done in the past, where people would sit in Europe or American universities and they would theorize and they'd come up with all these ideas about people and culture and values and norms and customs, and then they would project them out onto people. Well, Franz Boas and Margaret Mead said, no, you need to start by collecting data, by living with the people, by seeing what their beliefs are, and then you make theories based on the data you collect. You don't do it the other way around, which is much better science. What Margaret Mead and others discovered, however, after visiting all these different cultures, was the wild range of diversity going on among different people groups. And this could be anything from sexual norms, marriage customs, the ideas of property, ideas of religion, of politics, of economics. And this vast array led Margaret Mead and others to realize that there really weren't a lot of universals. Well, let me rephrase that. There were cultural universals that all people groups seem to participate in. I mean, there might be a few exceptions, but the exceptions really make the rule. But what they found was this was more like abstract ideas or concepts, like maybe love and loyalty towards the family. Well, love and loyalty to the family or to your parents could be expressed in very different ways. Some cultures might express this by keeping your family members, your parents, around as long as possible. Others might believe that you needed to send your family, your parents, to the happy hunting ground while they still had a physically fit body, since they were going to have the same body in the afterlife for all eternity. So they're going to have the same value of caring for family members, but it's going to manifest itself in different ways based on their beliefs about the external world, their beliefs about the afterlife, the beliefs about who we are as human beings, etc. Another example might be morality. It seems like every culture in the world has a concept of morality, whether you're from Victorian England, where people tried to cover up and hide human sexuality to an outrageous degree, to where they were actually even putting skirts and things on the couches and chairs in order to cover up their womanly shapes and curves, to places where maybe the only covering some tribes may have along the Amazon or in Papua New Guinea is a penal gourd shaft, or maybe a piece of string tied around the abdomen, or some cultures maybe all they're wearing is paint. But if you took away that string or that paint, those people would feel equally as naked as a European woman who was removed of her 20 yards of cloth and clothing. And so the idea is the same, this sense of modesty, but what is modest is going to be relative based on time and place. This sort of thinking, or these observations that people had different values and different norms and different ethics in different cultures, led other people to the conclusion that then that makes all ethics and morality relative. Well, that's not what the ethical relativists are saying. What the ethical relativist is saying is, when in Rome, do as the Romans. If you come to America, well, you better know the laws, norms, values, mores of America. If you're going to travel over to Saudi Arabia, well, you better make sure you know what the rules are before you get over there, or it could go very hard on you. I remember a story about 7 years ago where these two men from the Middle East came over. They were probably in their 50s. They set up a business. I believe it was in Montana or the Dakotas. And then after they had established themselves and started business, they sent back home for their teenage brides, who I believe were 13, 14 years old. Now, from the culture that they came from, that was perfectly acceptable, even normal. In Montana, however, it was completely unacceptable. Child Protective Services were called. They were charged with statutory rape, contributing to the delinquency of minors, and they did prison time for having minor women that they claimed were their wives. And they very well may have been their wives, but not in American culture. I mean, that's not acceptable here. And you might say, well, that doesn't seem fair or just. Well, it would be the same thing if you were a young woman and you traveled to Saudi Arabia and you thought you could just walk around unveiled, and you perfectly well knew how to drive here in the States, and you'll be darned if you weren't going to drive in Saudi Arabia. Well, you could find yourself in the Huskow quickly, and with a lot of trouble. Maybe some good beatings for your time, and it's simply because you're not following the norms and values and mores of where you currently are.